Hi, guys. Brian here. Just wanted to share your productivity hack for today. This one is two email rules which you can automatically cut down your inbox by more than half. I've been using these rules since 2011, 2012, and I absolutely love them. And they really have, for me personally, they cut mine down by almost three quarters at work and at home, even more so. So, very wonderful rules, and they're very easy to do. So, here's your quick context for these rules. Remember rules, I'm assuming you know what rules and filters are, but they are automatic triggers. They're basically think of them like if then statements. If this happens, then move this email or do this. So here's a simple example. If my mom emails, then mark that email as important in my inbox so that it might give me attention, might draw my eyes or get better attention from me. So the two most popular email programs in the world right now are Gmail and Outlook. So I'm going to share and cover how you do both these rules in both of those. So and remember, in Outlook they're called rules. That's where the term started. But in Gmail they're called filters. So if I say rules, I mean filters, or filters mean rules in either one of those, but they function exactly the same way. So if you've ever wondered, basically, this is how the people who get hundreds of emails a day still have zero, get to email inbox to zero. They really do. And this is one of the main tools that they use to do it. So what we're going to do here is these are the two rules. The first one, in very simple terms, what I'm going to do is I'm going to tell it to you in plain language, and then I'm going to show you how it actually looks in the computer program when you build the rule itself in Outlook or in Gmail. So in simple terms, in plain English, this is what we do. If my email address is not in the to or CC field, then move this email out of my inbox. I'll get to it later. That's in plain language. The other one is if the email contains the word unsubscribe, then move this out of my inbox. I'll get to it later. And that's one of the interesting things about, the United States, and the government passed a rule or a law. I can't remember if it's a law or a rule, but there's a requirement that you must be able to unsubscribe from email lists. And so as a result, 99% of all of the things you subscribe to contain the word unsubscribe in the email. So that's an easy way to identify something that is a subscription or something that's not important. And that's really what this is about, is prioritize the stuff that I need to see because it's something I need to respond to. So that's what I'm really referring to here. So we'll start with Outlook. If you're going to implement these two rules in Outlook, this is exactly what it looks like. So rule number one above, remember this one is my name's not in the to or CC field. So rule number one would look like this once you create it, and you'll go through the rules exception, and this is how you know you've got it right. So you're going to apply this rule after the message arrives. You're going to move that email to I call it my news and FYI folder, but you might name it something else, except if my name is in the to or CC box. So what that basically means is it's automatically going to move every email to the news FYI folder, except if my name, my email address is in the to or the CC box, the field, CC field. I also have an exception here where it's also going to move it. It's also going to be accepted if, for me, it's HQ security updates. This is an email address that if this comes, this is my work email that I'm referencing here. And this is if there's a security risk, if there's a active shooter drill or something, that's an exception. And I'll explain a little more about that later. But these top three lines right here, apply this rule when the message arrives, automatically move it to the FYI folder, except if my name is in to or CC. Rule number two above, remember this is the one if it contains the word unsubscribe. So here's what it looks like when you create the rule in Outlook. You're going to apply this rule after the message arrives. If it has with unsubscribe in the body, somewhere in the body of the email, move it to the FYI folder. So there you go. Those are the two rules. That's what they look like in Outlook. And now I'm going to scroll down here, and this is what it looks like in Gmail. Gmail's a little different. Remember, they call it a filter. And in this case, I use the promotions tab in my personal email. Instead of creating an actual FYI folder or a news folder, I just use in Gmail, you know how they have this promotions tab over here. For me, primary is the stuff that's important to me, and promotions is everything that's like, I'll get to it sometime. I'll scroll through it, check it every couple of days. So I use the promotions tab as my FYI folder. So there are this to set up this behavior, you can either do filters, and I'm going to show you that, or for me personally, I also use, there's an ability inherent in Gmail, and I'll show you that too. So first, if you're creating the filters, this is what it looks like. You go in at the very top of your screen where the search bar is. There's three little dots or three lines on the right-hand side of that, and this will pop down this search screen, right? So if you're searching your email, this is what you do. If you're going to set up rule number one, remember this is the one where if my name's not in the to or CC field, this is what it looks like. You open parentheses and you put not to my email and not CC that email. So that just means if it's not in either of those, then move it. Then on the next screen, you hit the create filter button at the bottom. And on the next screen, you can move it to the promotions tab or move it to another folder you set up. But that's how you set up the parameters. Rule number two is that word unsubscribe. All you do is put has the word unsubscribe in it. And that's the filter that you create. And Gmail will do the rest. It'll move it for you. Now, I did want to leave a note here because Gmail also has the ability to drag and drop. So what that means for you is if there is an email that comes into your primary and you want it to go to your promotions tab, you can click and drag it and it will go to your promotions. It'll go to the promotions tab, and then it will say, each time you do that, a little screen will pop up and it will say, do you want to do this for future messages from whatever that email address was? And you can click yes. And what'll happen is every time that email comes in, it's going to promotions, it's going to promotions, it's going to promotions. So this is what makes it happen. So that also functions the same way as this unsubscribe works. Gmail's really smart. Outlook didn't do this for a long time, but Gmail kind of had this from the beginning with these promotions where it automatically recognized a lot of the newsletters, but you can fine tune it. So make sure you're fine tuning it. That'll keep it out of your inbox. Also, I've got a little link here. Here's the article. So going with this, there's going to be a PDF that you'll be able to access this and look at it. You click these links. You can feel free to use all these resources here. So the last little thing I wanted to share with you is this helpful tip, which is the exceptions. Make sure you use the exceptions. So the exceptions are a part of the rule where if you notice that you set up this rule where every time it moves all these emails, like the word unsubscribe, but I can already hear you going, well, wait a minute, Brian, what if there's one that I really like? What if I want to see that on this particular newsletter? I want that in my inbox. It's important. No problem. If you have a filter set up, it's called exceptions. And you leverage the exceptions part of the rule. And so what you can basically do in layman's terms, I have it right down here, which is that's the example I showed you earlier with my Outlook rule, where I have an exception from HQ security updates, right? So basically what I noticed when in my work email was that if there was a bomb threat or an active shooter drill or some kind of something that was going on, a fire drill, something, everybody in the building would get emails from HQ security updates, and I would want those to come right to the top of my inbox. I wouldn't want them to go to the FYI folder and I'll get to them later. So that's an example where I use that exception and for HQ security updates. The other one that I really noticed was if my boss, that's the other really common one. If you get an email from your boss in your work email, you're certainly going to want that to come into your inbox. You don't want your rules to automatically filter that one out. So that's just another example, logical example of where you would use the exceptions. So there you go. There's your two rules that can cut your inbox down by more than half. If you've got questions about this, shoot me an email or respond to the email that you get this through, or however you see this. Feel free to shoot me a note because I love these two. I've been using them for years and years and years, and they are game changers. My little story that I'll leave you with is I just came back from a pretty short vacation. And I got 500 emails in that few days that I was gone. And normally, when you come back from vacation, oh my gosh, you got to catch up on all the stuff you missed when you're out. But what's amazing is because I use these two rules, I only had about 100 email. I had 500 emails that came in. Only 100 and maybe 20 were in my inbox. The rest of them were in the FYI folder because they were newsletters or they were mass mailer updates about various things, or they weren't urgent. So, what's great about that is when I sat down to try to catch up after vacation, I was able to actually go through just the ones that were sent to or CC me directly. That's a good place to start for priority. And I went through those. And so I came back at 8 a.m. I started, and by 10 a.m. I had gone through all of those emails. And so I was up to date. So I knew where I was. I was caught up with where I was at. And I can go through those FYI messages later that were filtered out, but I got the important stuff first. And so then I knew I was caught up and I was started working ahead right then. So that's just an example of how these rules have just been game changers. And so I'm happy to share them with you today. So thanks for checking this out. And I hope this has been helpful, and drop me a note if this is something that I can help with or assist with. So thanks guys. Appreciate that.